All right. Good morning, good evening. Hi, everybody. It's wonderful to see everybody here. It was fun to watch some of you dancing to the music too. That's nice. It's very nice. How you doing, Angel? It's good to see you. Theodore, it's wonderful to see you too. Wow. It feels like it's been quite a while. I think it's been almost 2 months since we've had class. Cotting, welcome back from retreat. So welcome, everybody. We're starting a new class today. It feels like a continuation, but we're going to be starting now with ACI 17. Um, and this is going to be a review of the foundation courses 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we're going to be going through the second third of the courses and reviewing mainly the highlights. Like, what are the highlights of all of those courses? And for those of you that were here for the first course for ACI 16, it's kind of a bit of a race, right? It's a race of, can we get everything in? And I officially decided that that's impossible, right? So I decided that I'm just going to give you most of the information, and I actually have planned in the second class some new material that many of you may never have heard before. Because honestly, talking about the same thing over and over again is no fun anyhow. Um, and so whatever we don't cover, that's going to be left up to our study group leaders. And I'm so grateful that there's so many people who are willing and are pushing for people to learn this material, review it, because there's this thing that happens, and there's this thing that happens when you're studying, that you hear it once, or you hear it twice, or you hear it 3 times. And then after a certain period of time, and it happens differently for all of us, is that all of a sudden we hear the same thing again, and then a whole new meaning opens up, a whole new meaning of what it was for your life. How does that relate to my own evolution? How does that relate to, oh, that's what's been going on? Yes, that's going on too. And so don't think that just because you're hearing something again, like try to open it, like it's useless, or like I already know that. Try to open your mind, try to open your heart, try to say, all right, well, what's different this time? Like what's the deeper meaning of this? How is this relevant for me now that my life has changed or evolved? Or when I first heard about the Diamond Cutter Sutra, what did I miss? Like, did I really understand emptiness? Well, if you really understood emptiness, you would have become an Arya, you would have seen it directly, and then you would be on your way out. So if that didn't happen yet, and I don't know if it has happened for you or not, but if it hasn't happened for you, then there's still more work to be done. And this afternoon, I had a really beautiful surprise afternoon, actually. I just got back to Mumbai, flying out tomorrow morning. And my friend introduced me to her friend. And mainly because there was the question of, well, what should we eat? And the idea was, well, why don't we go over to my friend's house? She's a great cook. And the food was absolutely phenomenal and healthy and uplifting. But what was even more powerful is that as we were talking, all of a sudden, turns out that this person's also a Buddhist practitioner. This person also studies, in our lineage, not directly through Ken Rinpoche, Geshe Michael, in these classes, but from the same lineage. And as she was talking and then sharing all these ideas, I was like, this is amazing. I'm getting a teaching, when I just thought I was coming for lunch. Right. And then she pulled out all these books and then started going through them and she opened them up and she was reading them to me. And it was like, it was like being taught Shanti Deva for the very first time after being taught, many, many times the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. All of a sudden, I'm feeling like I'm being taught like I'm a little kid again, and so these classes are that's what it's designed to. Like we have to keep reiterating and learning and repeating to ourselves. Well, why do I see it this way? Where is it coming from? If you got upset at all today, how about everyone raise your hand? Did you have any kind of negative emotion today? Even if you just woke up in Arizona, you know, an hour ago, 15 minutes ago. Okay. Cotting, I don't see your hand up, but I like, did you have some kind of like negative emotion today? Did you have some kind of judgment about somebody else? Did you have some kind of like, did you think that something was coming from itself today? You know, Probably, I mean, if you're not an Arya, but if you are an Arya, even then you still see things coming at you until you had the subtle seeds at like the eighth Bodhisattva level or something like that, you know. But you see, like we have to continue to go deeper and deeper. And, you know, I as I prepared these classes a couple days ago and I was thinking about it and I was thinking about what's important in the Diamond Cutter Sutra, you know, it's really an investigation into the ways that we think things are real, the way that we think not only things are real, but ourselves are real, the way that we think that the thoughts, the emotions, the the discriminations, the judgments, the happinesses, the sadnesses, the depressions, the confusions, where are they really coming from? Right? That's what we're looking for. Like we're looking to go, okay, today I experienced happiness, sadness, tiredness, hunger, some judgments, I can go through the list of things. I had someone, yell at us as we drove by because we were driving too close. And like the anger I saw on this person's face was, you know, it was real. I was like, holy Christ, that's intense anger. Right. And, but to investigate where it comes from, where is it like, is it really just out there by itself? You know, and if it were the case that it's just there out there by itself, then it's hopeless, right? Because that would mean it doesn't change and it doesn't have the ability to be something different, right? And I imagine each of you in your own way have had some kind of experience that goes, wait a second, the thing that I'm seeing may not be what's actually there, right? You know, we have this pen chew toy thing. Let me get a pen. Right? You got this pen chew toy thing, right? You know, you thought it was a pen for your whole life, and then somebody said, "Well, actually, no, it's a chew toy for a dog." You know, and you go, "Oh, well, that's nice. Thanks, Tim. That's a nice realization." Right? And then maybe you might go and be like, "Well, what if other things were that way?" Like that's the whole point. What if something else were, if the pen is that way, maybe something else is that way. The angry boss. Okay. Like, are they angry from their own side? Or could somebody else see it differently? Like just asking that question, could someone else see this differently? And I think that opens up the possibility of transformation because when you can apply it to one thing, you certainly can apply it to other things. And then you go down the rabbit hole, as we say in English. Like you go down the rabbit hole of like, well, what else isn't what it seems? You start asking different questions. Maybe your glasses, maybe this mug, right? Maybe that emotion that I have, maybe the pieces that I'm putting together that created that anger didn't aren't there by themselves. Could even that emotion be experienced as something different? Have you ever had the experience of two equal things happening, and then at one point you could be happy about it, you could be angry about it, or you could just not care, right? Like like nobody cared about war in the United States until 9/11, right? There's war happening all the time. I mean, I read the news this morning and I was depressed. I was depressed about all the things that I saw that were happening where people were hurting each other and killing each other. You know, Sometimes we don't care. Sometimes we do care. Sometimes we don't even notice, right? Same thing, same action, different results, right? So that's the point of the Diamond Cutter Sutra is to get us into a place where we can start asking this actual question. Like what isn't empty? What is not coming from how you treated others in the past, right? Well, what is there? What's not coming from from things that I've done to treat others in the past, whether good or bad? And it all kind of boils down into one point where it comes down to one point that says it comes the personal responsibility that comes with that point of view. Like what happens when you think to yourself that everything that you're seeing is coming from how you treated others in the past? Like what would happen? Like what kind of personal responsibility would come from that? And I was thinking this morning, like, I was in a beautiful retreat center, like, you know, 12, 13 days, like nature preserve, animals, amazing food, kindness everywhere, clean, happy people. You know, it was almost like a little paradise, and it was. They grow most of the food there, like farm to table, right? You know, everyone has a role, everyone's having it was a phenomenal place. And then we got in the car to head back here to the city, and the moment you walk out of the gate, it's like it goes from paradise to like, oh, holy shit, like it's a completely different world outside of it. There's trash everywhere, there's congestion everywhere. The people are, you know, living completely different lives, right? I was in this like little bubble, and then the karma shifted. And I was like, why do I have to see this? Like, whoa, like And then you ask the question, like, okay, what's my personal responsibility in this? Right? Because the opening lines of the Diamond Cutter Sutra are not about emptiness, or so it seems. I have a picture for this. You might like it, I don't know. Right? Somebody shows up and asks the Buddha, right? Hold on just one second. Subhuti shows up and says, okay, how should a bodhisattva live? How should a bodhisattva practice? And how should a bodhisattva think? Right? This is the opening question of the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And I chose this picture as a way of like, because Lord Buddha then goes on to tell us, well, this is how we're supposed to live. This is how we're supposed to practice. This is how we're supposed to think. But I want to give you a little bit of a feeling in this is that sometimes the Buddha appears to us not as this guy, 8 feet tall, you know, bump on his head, big belly, right? It could be someone like this young kid, young adult, right? Like the idea of how one is supposed to live, like how is one supposed to practice? How are you supposed to think? Right? That's the opening line is how's a bodhisattva supposed to do that? Right? And the teachings come in so many different ways. And this is, part of the engagement with where we're going with these courses, that we're not just stopping with 18, right? We're going to be moving into, more subtle practices, more, I hate to call it advanced because it sounds like it is advanced. It's advanced thinking, it's advanced being. I like that. It's an advanced being, something like that. It's also incredibly subtle, the way that your mind begins to see the world, the way that you begin to act in the world, the way you begin to think in the world, right? Like you take all of these pieces and you put them together, and then all of a sudden, someone randomly in Bombay, you go over to their house randomly, starts opening up Buddhist books and starts reading the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, right? And then all of a sudden, you're getting this incredible teaching that answers your question. Like, why was I in a paradise that then turned into like, oh my God, like just on the other side of this dividing line is a completely different world, right? The amount of, trash that I saw within like, 5 kilometers, I was just like, this is incredible. Because it wasn't my reality 5 minutes beforehand at all. Okay. You know, so how does a bodhisattva think? How does a bodhisattva practice? How does a bodhisattva live? How do you live in that? And how do you live? Many of you have asked me this question, like, how do you live in a place that has a lot of, or current active war, or the threat of current active war, right? What do you do? Like, so many people said, look, I'm planting seeds. It's, and nothing's changing. you know, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And there's this beautiful line at the very beginning of the Vajragini sadhana that says, the more degenerate the times become, the more powerful your practice becomes. The more things get difficult, the more powerful your seeds become, because you're in the face of the worst and you chose something different, right? And that's what the Buddha is saying. When you're faced with the worst, how do you choose to show up? Right? Not in this like, oh my God, this is coming from seeds. This is coming from how shitty of person I am. I've been terrible and I created all this. Wham, wham, wham. I'm such a terrible person. I'm going to hell. Everything's worthless. I'm a piece of crap. I'm destruction incarnate and I created this. I know a lot of you think that, you know, wrong. You're so wrong in that moment because in that moment, you're thinking that those words you're using about yourself, you're thinking that they're coming from themselves. You think you are that way by itself. Even when you say, I must have been a shitty person. And I want you to hold on to that thought because there's wrong worldview in that thought. There's wrong thinking in that thought. Because, yes, it's true that something happened to create this. Great. Yes, you're always wrong until you see emptiness directly. So give it up. Just relax. You're always wrong. You've always been wrong. You've been every one of us until we see emptiness directly has never had a thought that has not been selfish. Sorry. Because deep down inside every good deed you do, there's a deep wish inside of you that says, I hope somebody notices me. I hope that somebody sees me as this good person. It's a deep, deep, deep wish to be seen, to be understood, to be witnessed, like to have that seen, like being seen, right? Thinking that you're being seen out there. And it's like every moment, every moment of wrong thinking, which we're all engaged in, okay, is what's creating the world we see. Okay. From time, from no beginning. Okay. So just you can let it go because that's what we're here to do. We're here to let go of the guilt. We're here to let go of the struggle and the pain of thinking that we're not good enough. And we have an opposite power. We have something that the Diamond Cutter Sutra teaches us. And that is you have a choice right now. How do you show up in the face of the worst of the worst? Right? And that's what we're going to learn today. We're going to learn how to, you know, unravel those pieces, unravel that misunderstanding. Because if we can unravel it, then that deep, deep desire within us to be seen, to be acknowledged, that somebody will see my goodness, right? You become automatically that goodness. Okay. Because each moment is a choice. Each moment becomes the choice of what am I going to do now? This person pissed me off. This war is happening. This emotion's not what I want, or my health isn't the way I want it to be, or I can't find the right people in my life, or I don't have the right partner, or I don't have the right this or the right that. Okay, right? And it's this space of can you pause understand it's coming from you. Great. And find the opposite action. I'm not answering questions right now, especially long ones that make me have to think in the middle of a class, Marina. Come on. Are you crazy? It's not appropriate. Come on. Don't lose the thread. As a teacher, Marina is showing you don't lose the thread of emptiness right now. Don't lose that thread of where is it coming from? All right. And then each moment becomes a moment of possible purification, possible four steps. I'm seeing this. Okay, not going to do this again. What am I going to do differently? And then how are you going to live? How are you going to practice? And how are you going to think? Those three things. You see, how do you im- approach suffering, your own and others, which is essentially the same thing anyway. And so that's how we're going to unravel this. This is not just some intellectual exercise of, oh, where's it coming from? Right? This is a piece by piece unraveling of the suffering that we think that we're locked into and that others are locked into. And I was thinking a lot during this little vacation that I had, retreat, healing, health, wellness thing. Um, they have this beautiful, they have a ton of land, and part of their mission is also to serve children. And they have a school for about 120, 130 orphans. And they have various businesses. It's just not a wellness center. They have various businesses, including they have a floral. They grow roses. There are hundreds of thousands of roses on this property, right? And they have other lines of business as well. And I was talking to the owner of the company who just, I don't know, happened to be there, right? Is like he manages like 20 lines of business. The guy's busy, right? You know, and I asked him about the school. I said, "Well, why are you doing this? Like, I think it's cool, but like, what's your thought? Like, why are you taking care of these children?" Right? And he said the reason we're successful is because we take care of the children. He's not a Buddhist. He doesn't seem like he studies emptiness, right? And I went in and I met the kids, and it was just like these children don't have parents. They don't have anything. Like, we went in and we gave them like snacks. Like, they were grateful and hopeful, and they just need connection. They wanted to be seen. They were like, it was so like intense for me to be there. I'm like, I want to help all of these kids. And, you know, how is a bodhisattva supposed to think? How is supposed to practice? How are you supposed to live? Right there. The community that they built at the center is a perfect karmic community. Of course, there's paradise around it. Of course, there's paradise around it. Like, taking care of the kids, the businesses are thriving. You know, it's when they bought the land, it was just dry land. Then all of a sudden, because they were doing all these things, all of a sudden there's a reservoir now. They were like up against huge water reservoir, which makes the land incredibly more valuable. And they have more water than they can imagine, right? So it's like, how is a bodhisattva supposed to live? Take care of the kids, right? Take care of the children, you know? And then you apply wisdom to it. Okay. You know, Tracy, those kids are, they're craving attention. Like they just anytime I walked, like it was like having like, you know. So anyhow, let's dive in a little bit here. The name of this text, as many of you probably know, the Diamond Cutter Sutra, right, is Dorje Chippa. And in the Sanskrit, is Vajrachitika, right? Two key words, right? Vajra means diamond, Chitika means cutter, right? Dorje Chippa, right? And it's incredibly important. A lot of people they call it the Diamond Sutra. They give it this sort of, oh, the Diamond Sutra, right? And actually, it's one of my, is she in here? Yes. One of my translators, Janet, and she was like, Tim, you do realize that's wrong. How, right? It was wonderful, right? It's like because I was just saying the Diamond Sutra. I wasn't saying, right, the Diamond Cutter Sutra. And I still don't remember how to say it in Chinese, right? Jing something something something, it has some tones to it. You all teach me eventually, right? But it's very important that we understand that the both words, Dorje, Chupa, Vajra, Chetika, right? Because it's the Diamond Cutter Sutra. How many times in the entire text does it mention Dorje Chupa? Thank God I didn't offer $100. The answer is actually only one person got it. Verena, only in the title. So if I had offered $100, you would have gotten it, right? But in the whole text, it doesn't mention it at all. Like it's just the title, right? And then we have to think about, well, what does that mean? Right? What does that mean that we have these two words that aren't mentioned in the title or actually in the text itself? And so as you get into your review groups, and then you think about like, what does this mean about those three pieces? How should a bodhisattva, which one is it? Right. What's the actual order? Does anyone remember? Live, practice, and think. Okay. Live, practice, think. Outer, like think living, practice, thinking, like going more inside. How should you bring that into yourself? Right. So with the Diamond Cutter Sutra and it being listed only once, there's several reasons for this. And it's important for us to think about it and as it relates to diamond itself. And we're going to talk more specifically in the second class about the four truths, Dembashi, right? The four Arya truths, the four groups of realizations that someone who has seen emptiness directly perceives, like truth about life as it is, the life that we experience. And this is what makes the Buddha's presentation so powerful, is because it gives us an a reasonably, if not completely accurate, description of what life is. This is what life is. This is what's been handed to us. Now, it changes and is different for each of us, like context, you know, who we are, what country we're from, what culture we grew up in, what gender we are, what expressions we are, all those things, right? Those are contextual differences, people differences, uniquenesses. But then when it comes to what is the core of all of that, right? And that's what an arya sees. When you see emptiness directly, you see and realize what that core really is. And one of those realizations that you have, which is what I said earlier, is that you realize that all the goodness that you've been engaged in has some kind of, I don't know, let's call it a virus attached to it, right? A virus of, well, I hope someone sees me. I hope someone notices what good deeds I've done. you know, and as a virus of ego, I like that. Look, you're not a bad person because you have that thought. I mean, still do all the good things. Please don't listen. Don't take this view of Tim saying, "Well, it's all infected with selfishness, so I shouldn't do anything good." Right, Michael? I know Mike's thinking like, "Yeah, I'm just not going to do anything good anymore. A waste of my time." That's our like Baltimore East Coast thing. But there is an element to it where you're just like, God dang, right? I'm doing all these good things and all this crappy stuff still pops out. You know, it's popping out because you got a virus. Sorry, right? And the cure is these classes. The cure is study. The cure is meditation. The cure is contemplation. The cure is taking care of children. Okay. Like I saw some beautiful pictures from Vietnam from the last week or so, where there's this a big YSI event happening along with an ALL event, and all the beautiful things that the Vietnamese do to help other people. Like there's this huge housing project, and I just keep seeing these wonderful, and Karina was there. Nice. Glad you're here too. Um, you know, there's all these cool things that are doing. We can't forget. Yeah, sit on Zoom, talk like study with your teachers, great, but at the end of the day, like what are you doing for other people? And how are you doing it? Like take care of someone, take care of your family, your elders, take care of children, find something to take care of. You don't have to be a maniac, okay? You don't have to run around the world, you know, and like create all of these huge programs that have impact. Like, no. If each and every one of us in the entire world did one nice thing, that would be 16 billion nice things done, right? There'd be a person who received it and the person who did it. So that's 8 billion people each getting one nice thing happen to them. That's like, it feels, you know, it's not that hard, frankly. What if we just had a day of let's be nice to each other? What if we just didn't do shitty things to each other all day long? Ceasefire. Let's have a ceasefire. Okay. All 8 billion of us. You see, what kind of seeds would that plant? What kind of world would that be if 8 billion people decided for one day just to be nice to each other and then caught themselves every little like irritating thing that happened? They just said, oh, I'm not going to get mad today. We've agreed as a humanity not to do this. Right. It's possible, guys. It really is. You don't have to save the world. That's how we save the world. Doesn't, it's like, it's not the way you think it is. So when you have that experience, of seeing emptiness directly or any of the realizations, you know, there's this thing that they say happens is that afterwards that you want to remember it. You want to be like, oh, yes, 30, 30, 30. No, like you say yes. And you say, I don't want to forget this experience. I don't want to forget that I had this experience. What can I do right now that will remind me of that? Right? You know, and the closest thing that comes to your mind in the known universe is a diamond, right? See if it can, you can see it sparkling, right? Just a diamond, right? Maybe you would think I have a diamond and I have to have this to remind myself every single day that, of this experience, right? And so the Diamond Cutter Sutra, being related to emptiness, of course, then says, okay, well, the thing in the universe that's closest to being ultimate is a diamond, right? Emptiness and a diamond. And so, in what ways are diamonds and emptiness the same? Like, in what ways can it help us remind us? Like, why do we call it the Diamond Cutter Institute, right? Diamond Cutter Press, right? Diamond Cutter Sutra, right? Like, think about it. Like, why are all these names Diamond Cutter Classics? Five Houses doesn't mean diamonds in it, but I'm sure we can build a logo or something. We'll figure it out, right? We have Diamond House in the Five Houses, so there you go. Diamonds can be a boy's best friend too, Vlad. Don't forget that. All right. So the three things, right? The first reason that a diamond is like emptiness, right? As I just said, it is the closest thing in the physical world to something that's incredibly, actually ultimate, right? Why? Because a diamond is the hardest known substance in the physical universe. There's nothing harder than a diamond so far. Okay. And so when you see emptiness directly, you realize that you just perceive the ultimate. And so you want to find the ultimate thing in the universe. What is the most ultimate thing? The hardest thing there is, right? And that's going to be a diamond, right? Only a diamond can scratch another diamond. All right. There's no other known substance that will scratch a diamond. All right. Second reason why diamonds represent emptiness is because a diamond is totally clear. Like if you had a window made of diamond, like on an airplane, or if you had a piece of diamond in front of you, right, completely flat, and if it was, 5 kilometers wide, thick, right, you're looking through 5 kilometers of diamond, right, in this direction and that direction, right? Provided it didn't have any impurities in it, which a diamond, you pull things out of the ground, they kind of do, but a pure diamond would be totally clear. You would not see it there, right? If you had glass and did the same thing and you turned to the side, you would see a color because of the impurities in it, right? Glass is not pure. Pure diamond, completely clear, right? You'd look out the airplane window and you'd think you could put your hand through the window, right? Maybe over the Himalayas. That's the second reason. And then the third reason is that when a diamond is broken into pieces, which you can break a diamond, okay, if you hit the right lining of it, every single piece of diamond is perfect diamond. All right. So just like if you look around your room right now, or some of you are outside hanging out, you know, if you look around where you are, every single thing that you are perceiving has its own emptiness. Every single object there is has emptiness. Okay. While those emptinesses, there's all those individual emptinesses, each and every one of those emptiness is 100% identical. The emptiness of the cup, the emptiness of the pen, the emptiness of the specs, the emptiness of the wall, of the, you know, the lights, of the everything, right? Those emptinesses are 100% equal. Everything around you has an emptiness, and that emptiness is the same. Okay. 100% empty, empty of coming from its own side. It's equal. Let's call it equal. They're not the same emptiness, they're equal emptinesses. Okay. So that's the depth of it, where you come out of that experience and you know that like everything that's appearing to you is not there for no reason at all. Everything that is coming, everything you perceive is coming from how you treated others in the past. And the absence of something not coming from how you treated others in the past is its emptiness. Okay. So they have equal emptinesses. They're all empty. Emptiness is clear and it's all around you, and you just don't see it. And that's the irony of it. It's always been there ever since the beginning. Since beginningless time, it was always there and you didn't see it. Why? Because it's clear. Just like a diamond's clear. 5 kilometers of diamond, you still see diamond. You see straight through it, excuse me. So, and then emptiness is the ultimate thing you can perceive. And you're not perceiving a positive thing, you're perceiving a negative thing. It's a thing that's not there. You're perceiving something not there. And it's you got to be very, very careful when you talk about emptiness because it's not, oh, everything is empty. Well, okay, emptiness is a thing. No, emptiness is not a thing. It's an absence. It's a lack. Okay, well, everything has emptiness. Okay, you can kind of say that, but there's no words that can describe the the experience of emptiness because it's an absence, right? And so we go through a gazillion different ways to figure out what, how do I say this? We're always trying to find different ways to describe the thing that's indescribable beyond all words and thoughts. Okay. We're trying to find that. We're trying to narrow. We're trying to push our mind this way and this way and this way and this way. And right? You're kind of like your mind is constantly bouncing off of it, bouncing through it or around it, you know, but it's clear and invisible and it's been there and everything has had its emptiness since the beginning and you just didn't see it, including yourself, including every single time you went through death. Every single time you've gone through death, you've experienced a natural emptiness. You've experienced the clear light. You just didn't know you did it, right? The withdrawal of everything, the withdrawal of all projections, the withdrawal of all projections onto itself, into itself, right? So that's why, a diamond. Now, the interesting thing is diamond anything like emptiness? Not at all. It's not like it. It's incredibly far away from it. You know, it's so far away from the ultimate that it's you couldn't call it ultimate, right? But it's the ultimate thing in this universe. So why is it called Chupa? Why is it called Diamond Cutter Sutra? Because even emptiness cuts a diamond. Okay. In terms of ultimate things, emptiness by far beats diamonds. Okay. It beats that entirely. Okay. All right. What's next here? Where are we going next? Got it. Okay. So now, like with this idea of emptiness, right? That I've been hopefully doing a pretty good sales job on. I hope. You know, like what is emptiness empty of? Okay. So to understand what emptiness is, we have to understand what things are not. Okay. Like we have to figure out how do we, when I'm looking around the room and I'm looking at all these things, right? I'm trying to figure out, well, what is if there is emptiness here in the room, like a ghost, right? A haunted house. That'd be a good one. Like your room is haunted with emptiness. And there's a ghost of emptiness everywhere and you just can't see it, right? But what is it? Like when I'm looking at this pen, right? Or if I'm looking at a Zoom screen or I'm looking at something, how do I get to its emptiness? Like, how do I get there? Right? Like, how do I establish what it is that emptiness is empty of? Right? So what we need to figure out is how do we say this? What is what you think is there that's not there, right? You first have to establish something that could be there so that you can then understand what's not there, right? Because we're talking a lot about like, oh, it's something that's, you know, not coming from how I treated others in the past, right? Well, when I say that, I'm using this word, thank you, to gotcha. Like, it's not coming from how I treated others in the past, right? We always say to ourselves, okay, something crappy happens, some jag off annoys us, and we're sorry, translators, good luck with that one. Some jerk, annoys us, and we're like, nice. And we're like, you're out there by yourself annoying me, right? You can't possibly be coming from how I treated others in the past. You actually don't think that. Usually you think, oh, now you're going to hear a piece of what I think about you, you jerk, right? You're being mean to me. I'm going to be mean back to you, right? That's what I think anyway, sometimes. Normal reaction to things is not, oh, that must be coming from my seeds. I'm going to stay patient. Right, Tracy? I'm going to maintain my patience and love and equanimity for all living beings, except this one asshole, right? Except this one person. Oh, I like that, Tyler. Tyler is great. Tyler says, you know, well, you should tell that person to do the four powers. Yeah. Next time someone's a jerk to me, Mike, I'm going to be like, you should do the four powers with that little scowl on your face. You should really do the four powers. You know? But I mean, look, you got to have fun with it. Like if that kind of gets you all like, relaxed or something and helps you get out of, figuring that out, fine. You know, but the idea is that what is emptiness empty of? Like, what is there? What do we think is there? So we have to establish what we think is there and make sure, and then go to why it's impossible that it's there. You see, the whole name of the game is like catch yourself thinking that something is there that it's not. You see, and you're doing it all the time. Every single time you complain about somebody else not doing their job, well, why do you have to see that? And as a boss, I can't really say that. Maybe at an ACI meeting I can, but even then it's like the person's complaining about someone not doing their job. Okay, well let's help you let's help you do the job better. Let's call the other person. Well, look, Francisco, I'm just looking at you. You just happen to be here. You didn't do your job today. Why didn't you do that? And then Francisco's like, well, what do you mean I didn't do my job? Well, this person complained about it. Well, what do you mean they complained about it? I don't know. And then then as an ACI practitioner, we all go, well, that person doesn't do their job, so that's why they see me not do my job. Like, it's listen to the bullshit happen in your mind. Well, if they only did their job, then they would have the seats to see me doing my job. And the reason I'm not doing my job is because they're forcing me not to do my job because of their bad seats. By the way, don't send me messages about people not doing their job. All I think about is "Ugh, just not doing my job because all I'm doing is hearing criticism about myself, and then I'm not going to help you. If I don't respond to a message, it's probably because you should just look at yourself and think, well, why do I see that? Seriously, you know. But it gets funny sometimes. Like it really can get funny, but in the moment, I see a lot of you laughing because I know you thought it. Well, they're forcing me to act like an asshole. Yeah. That's their seats. Whatever. Don't karma blame other people, please. Please don't karma blame other people. Like, but you see, I'm triggered by their bad seed. Yes, I like that. But seriously, like think about it. Like in those statements, there's something in there that you think is there by itself on its own, independent of you. Okay. In each of those statements I made, I said something. Brian Mendoza, good to see you. I said something that had something self-existent in it. Okay. And then your job is to find out what it is that you believe is self-existent. Even saying things are coming from me, there's probably something in it that you think is self-existent. Okay. So what is it that we're trying to deny? Like if emptiness is something that's not there, what is the thing that we think is there, right? And something that could never exist anyway. That's the whole point. Something that could never exist anyway, right? And so the example we tend to use, we call it the gotcha, right? I think I've told you guys this story that this was going to be my first tattoo. I was going to put it right here, right? Gotcha, right? The thing that's not there, right? And then I realized the irony of putting the word gotcha on my arm, the thing that wasn't there anyway, right? And it's like a two-headed purple elephant in this room, right? Look around you, and is there a two-headed purple elephant rampaging through the room? I don't think so, right? It's absent. The two-headed, it's kind of weird that this room actually has purple. It's not like, it's kind of funny actually. Like, let's see if I can see my screen here. It's kind of weird to say this, but like, look, like purple chair, purple that, purple over there, right? It's kind of like a two-headed purple elephant, right? I'm like, it's red. There's a two-headed purple elephant, and my room is like half purple. Like maybe I'm creating a half purple elephant. I don't know. You see, but it's absent. There's some purple in the room, which I'm actually loving, but there's no the absence of a two-headed purple elephant is here. What else is absent? Oh, something that couldn't exist anyway. Oh, something self-existent. Oh, something that's there from its own side, independent of how your seeds, how let's just say you treated others in the past. Okay. And by the way, since we already did ACI 4, right? Most of you didn't plant the shit that's coming out of your seeds right now anyway. That should be some clear solace and relaxation. You should just relax. Okay. Most of you didn't do the things that you're seeing right now, including your idiot coworkers. Okay. Because you're good people. You're doing things to help others. Yes, we get angry. Yes, we do the little things. But look, like we're not bad people. Okay. They're just coming from some other time period in your life when you just had no, like, in a different lifetime. Like, I'm going to go on a tangent right now. Am I going to do this right now? No, we'll do it later. You know, yes, you're still seeing the bad things, but that's because now you have a choice how you're going to move forward. Complaining about it's not going to help. You know, look at the ways that you're doing those things, maybe small ways, cut it out, stop it, and then go help someone else do something better. That's all. My Before I joined ACI, my last job, I cleaned out all the assholes. One by one, I made them all go away. I had the most amazing team. Why? Because I just did this. I came into the office and was like, what asshole needs me to change my seats today? And I'm being so serious right now. And it became a playground, right? Because when you see it working, there's no logical reason why it made everyone go away. Because either problem people go away or they change, they get fired, they leave, they get new jobs, whatever. It doesn't matter how they leave. They left, right? So the point is, what are we trying to deny? That gotcha, that two-headed purple elephant in the room, which is not there, right? What's not there? That's what we're working to get rid of. Like, just line up all of your problems in front of you and like, right? Okay. No, that creates violence. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Um, not literally, but like, oh, you're self-existent. I'm gonna I'm going to look at that problem and say, this is me putting those parts together in this way. What is the opportunity that I have right now? Yes, I'll shoot lotus petals. That's perfect. Flowers, flowers. That's great. I'm mad. Oh, just flowers. Just throwing flowers out. Cut it out. Cut the illusion. Cut the issue, right? Like if you can cut something off in 90 seconds, you can seriously stop most of your negative emotions. Seriously. Something happens, you get upset. Okay. Stop thinking about it. I finally got it. Geshe has been telling us, just don't think about your problems. Don't think about it. What do you mean, Geshe? Don't think about my problems. My problems suck. It's like, well, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Why? Because the more you think about it, the more you plant it, the more you're just like, you're digging your heels in, right? Or a Chinese massage, you're just like, oh, that fucking hurts, right? You know, I some of you like Chinese massages. Oh God, I hate them. Like it hurts, right? You know. Oh, you want to keep hurting? Keep thinking about the problem. Oh, that person's annoying. Oh, let me just get right in there. You see? You see, like you're doing it. You know, you're doing it. You know. So like when something happens, give yourself here, I have a practice for you. Give yourself a 90-second grace window. You should start a timer on your phone. Hey Siri, I'm about to get pissed off. 90 seconds. Okay, 90-second timer. There it goes, right? And now watch yourself for 90 seconds be angry.
90 over 2 is 45.
Or Siri does mathematics. Fine.
Okay,
That's enough, Siri. Thank you.
check it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. But then you watch it, right? And you're like, I'm angry, I'm angry, I'm angry. Then all of a sudden, your world is going to start going like, oh my God, I'm planting seeds. Oh my God, anger, 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 anger. Okay. If you cycle, what happens after 90 seconds? Then you're like pushing that seed in further, and then you're engaging all of your emotions, period. Right? And now you're just hosed. It's over, right? Now now you've just created more samsara. By the way, as a total aside, did you know that if you think about something that happened in the past, that you actually create the same chemical pathways of that original experience in your body? If you want to stop things, like that's a good reason to stop thinking about it. The thing that created stress or created a cortisol spike or created a certain emotion, right? Now, I want to clarify this and button this up, and it's not that easy, and we don't want to like, how do I say this? There are certain kinds of experiences and emotions that take longer than 90 seconds to process. Okay. I'm not I'm not talking about that kind of thing. Okay. Like there's certain experiences that are very powerful and very create a depth of experience, like grief, for example, you know, or loss, or, you know, I'm not talking about those things. I am talking about those things, but I'm not diminishing that effect that they have on us, right? I'm not saying, you know, I'm talking about the rehashing of anger or the rehashing of things that have already happened that we're like holding on to that, you know, and and this is where like all these kinds of programs and all these support groups and people who are experts in this. Like grief is not something that goes away in a day or in 90 seconds. Loss doesn't happen that way. That's not all the things that happen, right? So I just want to like couch that and say I'm not diminishing all of those things or putting that in a box, you know. But what I am saying is that, you know, there's a lot of things that we carry around with us that are just habits. Okay. And I think the knowledge of that, if you're revisiting something that happened to you 20 years ago and it's creating the same pathways in you, you know, that's an insight, right? That's a deep insight. And how you navigate that and can shift it is it's not something that can just stop right away either. You know, that's why we have all these other support groups and therapies and things like that, which I myself do. Okay. Just so everyone knows. Okay. So one of the coolest things that then happens is once where we're talking about this, like this, this culminating experience is what we're trying to get to, right? Of seeing emptiness directly. What's on the other side? Okay, this is like now the cool part. Like, what are we trying to get to? What is the envision? What can it potentially look like? What will it look like? Right. So it will not look like a two-headed purple elephant. Okay. And this is the idea of what does the ultimate goal look like? How do we get there? Like, what, when you flip over into your enlightened self, like enlightened Anastasia, like enlightened Tracy, right? Enlightened Marcos, right? Like what does it look like, right? And there's four, we call them bodies, you know, in you know the word ku, right? The honorific for body. Lu is the word for body, ku is the honorific for it, right? We call them four bodies, right? Sometimes we group them in groups of two, sometimes groups of and we put them in three and sometimes in four, right? So it's not like there's four different bodies. It's not like, you know, when you become Buddha, all of a sudden there's like four things, like four like columns in an Excel sheet, right? It's not like that, right? It's more like parts, the four parts of a Buddha. Like what are those parts? Okay. And the first one we can talk about, which is what we're getting at, and which is something that you perceive when you not directly. Okay. I'm going to say that a little bit differently in a second. Um, is the emptiness of the other three parts of a Buddha. Okay. And that's called the Nooniku. Nooniku. All right. The essence body. Nooni is essence, ku is body. Okay. That and all this means is a blank screen, right? The essence body, the part of a Buddha. And this is the most important part. Excuse me, this is the most important thing or aspect or whatever the thing I'm gonna say is very important right now, which is not a thing, it's an emptiness. That is that it provides the foundation for all those other parts of a Buddha, right? So that a Buddha can perceive themselves as an enlightened being. Okay. And this is key, right? The blank screen upon which your seeds project an enlightened being. Okay. You are perceiving yourself as an enlightened being, doing enlightened activity. You see, the no niku, right? So wrap your mind around this, or in your notes, which you should be taking notes, wrap it up, you know, and your that emptiness, the potential upon which your seeds open up to see an enlightened being, right? You yourself have that same potential. Okay, right now, in this exact moment, you have the same potential within you. Your own emptiness is what allows that to happen. Okay. So when you see emptiness for the first time, what you're actually seeing is the emptiness of yourself. Okay. You're having that perception, the lack of something coming from its own side. You see. And so by having that experience for the very first time, that emptiness that you experience is the same emptiness that a Buddha experiences. The emptiness of you is the same emptiness that a Buddha has, which we just said, right? Smash a diamond, all the pieces of diamond are action. All the pieces of diamond are equally diamond. All emptinesses are equally emptiness, including the emptiness of a Buddha is the same emptiness that you have. Taking a breath for the translators. I'm sorry. I get excited sometimes. I apologize. Okay. That essence body, that's what you perceive your own emptiness. So it should be amazingly inspiring to be like, oh shit, I have one of the four parts of a Buddha already. It's just I have seeds that are not projecting a Buddha. Okay. I'm putting the parts together to create this thing, right? Let's see. So that's the first part. Second part of a Buddha. This is, we'll call this the Longku, all right? Longku, which is the perfect physical body that an enlightened being has in their own paradise. Okay. We say that it's exquisite, sheer light, no physical gross organs. Okay. I've heard this expressed in different ways, and one of the ways I've heard it expressed is you might take the form of a of like the most perfected being that you can imagine right now, and even better than that. Okay. Like if you can imagine what that would be like, the thing that you're most attracted to, you might become or appear as. Of course, you could appear as anything, and that's a different story. So that's the Lonku. All right. Now this one is pretty cool. All right. The millisecond after you become enlightened, there's this thing called the Tuku. This is the emanation body. And this is the physical forms that an enlightened being takes automatically without having to think about it due to their bodhicitta, due to being infused with that deep wish. And Tracy, what is the definition of bodhicitta? I know you were waiting for it. Come on. There you are. Do you remember what it is in Tibetan? Yeah, you told me to say it to you last time. I'll try it out. Let people turn on the microphones, please. Please, please, thank you. You should be able to turn on your microphone now.
Semkipani Shen Shendon Cheer Yang Dak
Oh, you're almost there.
Dzokpe Wong Dzokpe Jong De
I missed the word between Jiang and De.
Chup Chup De
All right. You get $100. Give me your PayPal. There you go. Finally. Good, good, good. Okay. Good job. All right. So due to that wish, that deep wish, which you still have when you reach enlightenment, you know, you go out in all these forms, right? A- Animate living beings, inanimate objects, any way that can benefit us, right? The classical physical form is like classic Coke, Buddha, right? Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, right? This piece is the key, one of the keys. Let's say get many keys to Diamond Way practice. Okay. This right here. Because if a Buddha is doing this, who is a Buddha around you? Maybe a Buddha is emanating the purple room. Maybe how many people are here? 210 people, right? Who's a Buddha? You don't know. And if a Buddha can do this, is out there helping you out right now, not only were you not paying attention to every object in the universe in your field of perception has emptiness, you also ignored the fact that every single one of those objects could also be a Buddha. Okay. And there's this cool thing that let me get this up here. I want to read to you guys. It comes from the Illumination of True Thought. And this was just Geshe is about to publish his book now, and there's this cool section on emanation bodies, on the trukus. And it's a really, really beautiful thing. And it says that I'm paraphrasing now, at the time of emanation, right? At the time of enlightenment, okay? You are then capable of displaying, here it is, guys, all the infinite forms that you have assumed during the entire circle of suffering, which had no beginning or end to it. You assume the forms of all those occasions of one of those past rebirths, which by the present time have come each one to their end. So it's really cool. All the beings that you were in past lives, infinite lives, you're then able to emanate as. It's really cool to think of it that way, right? Why? Because you already did it. You already did all of the stuff. Oh, I didn't do this one thing in this lifetime. Oh, yes, shut up. You did it in a past lifetime. You've done it before. You just don't remember. That's what I keep telling myself. I haven't done enough in this lifetime. No, I didn't have that experience. I didn't have that experience. Well, I really want that experience. Yeah, well, you already did it, so it's okay. How did it work out for you last time, Tim? Oh, that one cool thing I haven't done yet, that thing that I desire to do, right? Yeah, well, how did it work out for you last time? You know, you know, still cycling around in that. Okay, well, you can keep cycling around in it, or you could just stop. You can just cut it out. And by the way, cool thing, when you get enlightened, then you can do all those things anyway. It's not really missing out. But you haven't gotten enlightened yet. That's one thing you haven't done yet in your infinite lifetimes. Hmm. That's one thing you haven't done yet. If you are who you look like you are, and I don't know who you are, right? Maybe try to do something you haven't done yet Because if you logically think about it, you've been every being. You've done everything. You've done everything. Okay. So when we say you've been everyone's, everyone has been your mother, right? That's what we mean. Okay. And by extension and by the same logic, everyone has also been your partner too. Okay. That's a Diamond Way perspective. Okay. So, like, how would you treat everybody, right? Like, if they've all been your mother, right? How would you treat everybody if in the past they were your partner and they were trying to help you become enlightened, right? You know, like that's a incredibly like powerful view to have of people, right? In the past you must have been great. Like this person must have really helped me. They were my mother, they were my partner, they were all these things to me. Phenomenal, right? Incredibly phenomenal, right? You know, don't get lost in what happened in the past though, right? Like, how are you going to move forward now? Like, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do with the life you have now? How are you going to treat all those people? Which one of the beings are going to show up to like lead you, take you off to that paradise, right? Which one isn't, right? If they've all been it, then it doesn't matter, really. You just have to plant the seeds, and then someone will. One of them will. One of them will turn into a Buddha. I promise they will. They do it. They show up. They do all the time. If you're looking for it. If you're looking for it. You know, I think we worry way too much. I think we worry and focus on one person or one other person. This person has to be it, or this person's not it, or this person is, it'll drive you insane, right? Just plant the seeds and relax. It's hard, I know, but there's this beauty in understanding that the confusion you might be having in this moment, or this depth that you might be having, or this pain you might be having, you know, lifetimes of it, billions of them. And now, if you understand where it's coming from, how could you cut it out? How could you stop that cycle? Like, like, could you just, with a little bit of wisdom, cut out years of suffering? You can. Could you experience that? What they say when you study the Diamond Cutter Sutra is that you will get ripenings, you will have intense ripenings, but there are intense ripenings that are seeds ripening in a lesser way that could have been a total disaster in 5, 10 years. You know, it feels like a disaster today, but oh my God, it it was that was destined to be your cancer. And I'm going to finish the class with just this one thought around that is, many, many years ago, my father had stage 4 cancer, and I've told this story before, and I think it's relevant now again. And he was deeply, he was 6 months, he was done. They said 6 months goodbye, start saying goodbyes now while he's capable of, interacting, right? And it was weird because 99% of people die in 6 months and then the rest die within a year. And my dad's lived 14 years since it, right? Very, very weird. Um, and as the original illness was progressing and, my whole life fell apart. It was the weirdest thing. Like my whole life fell apart. My business fell apart. I got kicked out of my apartment. I got moved from a different apartment. I had the landlady from hell after that, and I kept like nothing was working for me. And one of them, when I finally decided to move close to my teacher at the time, moved in, went to work, came home, and my cat was dead. Okay, one of my cats had died. Like, please, can this be any worse? Like, you know, and about a week later, I went to visit a friend down in the city, and we were sitting there, and someone I've never talked to Buddhism about, never did any of this. I'm just sort of crying a little bit about my life, and you know, but in that week, something cool happened. My dad's cancer went away. Like, got the news, cancer free. Like, and everyone's like, what? All the doctors are like, what? This doesn't make any sense, right? And my friend said something cool to me. And it was like that moment where reality shifted, right? And there was it was almost like, I don't know, if the fabric of reality changed. And if you ever had that experience, you know what I'm talking about. I just don't know how to describe it. And she like became a different person. And she looked at me and said, maybe your cat died so your dad didn't have to. And then it was like it was like Wayne's World, right? And then goes back to like being normal. And I was like, what? And then all of a sudden, all these things happened in my mind. I was like, oh, I've been studying emptiness, all these things happening. Like maybe my cat, that I had the seeds for someone close dying, but it was the seed ripened earlier in my cat and not my father, right? And that's what I mean by when we study the Diamond Cutter Sutra, we're triggering these old seeds, right? Seeds planted in deep ignorance, and we need to get them out. So you might get an intense headache for a day, or you might have something intense happen, right? But it could be saving you from lifetimes of really, really bad things, you know. So we'll pause there, end of class one, and we'll come back in a half hour for class two. We'll continue with the second part of the Diamond Cutter Sutra. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, interpreters. Thank you, everyone, for being here and staying on this completion karma journey. I know this is hard. We're going through it. Just keep swimming. Okay. Please, just keep swimming. You know, each time we revisit these ideas, new perspectives and new shifts happen. So take a half hour break, enjoy, and see you in 30 minutes.